Three money mistakes to avoid in 30s. Very interesting title, right? Thanks for tuning in. This is Sandeep Anand. And this video I've created because most of us in our 30s would have done these mistakes. I have done a couple of them out of three. Most of us end up making these mistakes, and how at least the next generation of folks who are entering into 30s can avoid these three mistakes. And that's why I created this video. Let's see what those three mistakes are and how one can avoid that in the 30s. Take a look. So the first mistake we all did or do is not creating financial plans and goals. So in our 30s, especially, we have this tendency about time, that we still have a lot of time left to start savings and start investing, and we end up waking up one fine day in 40s and 50s thinking that we haven't accumulated much, or we don't have that financial cushion. And so in order to avoid that thought process, it's a good idea to start planning, financial planning, sitting with your financial advisors, as soon as you reach 30s, and just look at the across the spectrum, like tax planning, healthcare, investment planning, retirement, income planning, long-term care, legacy, and everything. So this is a comprehensive suite of things that needs to be taken care from a planning perspective. And we there is another thought, there is only one life thought process, and people end up splurging, spending a lot. And it's nothing wrong to buy things we want, but maybe a delayed gratification helps. Or even with a good planning, one can buy things they want, like a new phone or something. By properly planning it for once a year or twice a year purchases, it's quite possible. And this is this kind of thought process should be avoided, so that people don't end up straining and working in their 60s and 70s, and suffering when there is a job loss in 50s, 60s. To avoid all these financial stress and burden, it's a good idea to start planning well ahead in life, so that these things can be avoided. Now, which is the second mistake is really purchasing a new car, especially as soon as somebody gets employed in 20s and 30s, thinking that at that point of time we just have that short-term bias, and we end up buying a brand new car, which is priced very high and branded. It's all a dream to buy. There's nothing wrong, but maybe with proper planning, maybe mid 30s or 40s is a good idea to start buying brand new car. Looking at a percentage of income and percentage of wealth that one has is how you need to plan to purchase the car price. So as we all know, it's a very highly depreciating asset. It depreciates value 30% as soon as the rubber hits the road, and it creates in addition a financial burden of for the next 7 years, where it's a dependency on the job. We cannot go through a job loss, or we cannot shift to start a business or move around. It creates that financial binding. So avoid that, and instead also look at spending, spreading that investments through to purchase appreciating assets like equity and bonds. The third mistake, even I've done this, don't lock up all your savings into buying a house, putting 20, 30 percentage of mortgage value. It's not required to put, there's nothing wrong in planning and buying a house, but don't lock up yourself, putting 20, 30 percentage of your savings into that mortgage, thinking that it's a appreciating asset. It is an appreciating asset, but it's a very slow appreciating asset. So one need to look at create multiple appreciating assets along with home purchase. So that includes equity, bonds, gold, even for that matter. Spread it across the assets, so that you don't lock up all your savings into one mortgage. And also another aspect to that is, it's too early to start planning to settle down, purchasing a house, because it creates a financial binding and a burden on the job that we do, especially times like these when there is COVID kind of situations. We cannot afford to have a job loss. That creates a huge financial stress on somebody. So remove that binding off, and it's not that age to settle down. Rather, you should look at starting an entrepreneurship business or start investing in stocks, which can be very fast appreciating assets. And it also gives a flexibility to move around when you really don't have that kind of a financial burden. So these are the three mistakes that we commonly make in our 30s, the top three, I would say. And it's a good idea to avoid all of them, so that we don't end up creating that financial burden on our life later in the stages of life. So thanks for tuning with me so far, and hope this was helpful.